to Meanwhile in the Falklands. Actually, it's just me and you, isn't it, Hannah?
It is lonely too, but actually we're right in the mood to do a good podcast.
We are.
It's good.
We
Got
are.
our cups of tea at the ready.
Yeah, Friday the 22nd. It's my husband's birthday today. Happy birthday. And so we decided to come back to my house, and we're in the middle of baking some things. So we've made some pastry, and I've just made some sponge mix. So while I wait for the pastry to rest, because it has to rest in the fridge, we thought we'd do the podcast.
It's a bit like a bake-off here, isn't it? Mrs.
Yeah.
Famous' bake-off.
Yeah, I could be Prue.
You could be Prue. I've been having a leaf through your special recipe book.
Oh yeah, well I need to get a new one actually because, well actually you can see over there I bought a new one when I was in the UK because I need to, it's full basically.
Full at the brim with lots of different recipes you've collected over the years from different people.
Yeah.
You've met and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, well there's Andrea's Rocky Road in there because she made a really good Rocky Road. So I've got hers in there. There's Lee Summers' blondies because he did really nice blondies. Oh, they were delicious.
What's a blondie when it's at home?
It's like a brownie but not got the cocoa powder in it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, but it's really, really nice. I had white chocolate in that. The Mars bar trifle, there's a lady here on the islands who makes a Mars bar trifle, which is absolutely out of this world. And she keeps the recipe as a closely guarded secret.
How did you wheedle it out of her?
I didn't. That's me guessing how it's made. The only thing is when you melt Mars bars, I don't know whether have you ever melted Mars bars? They're really good when they've melted, but they don't have to take ages. And
Really?
there's a point at which you're melting them when you go, I think this is not working.
Yeah.
I think I've wrecked this. And then all of a sudden it will just turn and it turns into this gorgeous melted chocolatey, beautiful thing. And then you just sort of swirl it into custard that you've made. It's also hot. Yeah, and then stick some cream on top. This is a really nice recipe, actually.
I've never been mad on trifle, but I've never tried to make it, to be honest, so I wouldn't really know what the go-to way of doing it is. But, by the looks of it, you melt the Mars bars into the hot custard.
Yeah, yeah. Swirl it in. But, I mean, are you a trifle with jam? With jelly?
I'm a trifle with sausage, like Rachel from Friends. Do you remember that?
No, do you make your trifle? I mean, my nan never put jelly in a trifle, neither does my mother, but I put in jelly because I think it's an added layer.
Yeah. And sponge fingers, or am I getting confused with tiramisu where you do the sponge fingers in the coffee and stuff?
So, if you've tuned in for Meanwhile in the Falklands, here's us discussing trifles. Listen, it's a beautiful day out there, like seriously beautiful day, isn't it? Wednesday, like all hell broke loose because on all the weather apps that are down here, because you're really into your weather apps when you're down in the Falklands, all said like gale force, severe gale force, storm force winds. And I'm thinking that flight is never going to get in.
Well, Thomas and I were slightly concerned because we were obviously we were in Brazil in Sao Paolo for the second flight trip.
Yeah.
The delegation from Falkland Islands government was sent out and we were invited to go. So we were out there, and I kept getting messages from people saying, "Oh, not to be prophet of gloom and doom here, Hannah, but I don't think you guys will be coming home on Wednesday. Gale force winds, tie down everything, da da da." And I saw people were posting on Facebook tying down stuff because of 70 knot winds and all this and that.
The fire brigade put out a warning.
I know, and actually, the landed fine. Oh. No, not too much wind, not too bouncy, nothing. I was expecting mega turbulence and thought, oh my god, it's going to be really not nice. Absolutely fine.
But it's a slightly different, from what I understand, and basically my avionics is limited, but from what I understand, the new LATAM flight is on a 767.
Yeah.
And the air bridge is an Airbus 3, whatever it is. And the 767 can land in higher winds.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Because I would have thought smaller plane, we would have felt more of the wind. But
no,
actually,
it's a bigger plane.
Oh, is it?
I think it's a bigger plane, yeah.
Ah, maybe that explains it.
So, but like I say, avionics, But then, of course, when you land at MPA, landing's one thing, getting off is another.
Off the plane.
And there was a case a few years ago where they landed and the winds were so bad that they couldn't get the luggage off.
Oh, really?
So everyone had to go back the following day and collect their luggage.
My God.
Yeah.
That's not good. No, it wasn't too bad, actually. It was a little bit of a wake up when you step off the plane and down the stairs and you're greeted with a big blast of air in your face.
So to look forward to new FITV person who is one step closer to coming down here.
I know, that's exciting. All the wind. It's hard. That's the thing, it's really difficult to describe to people what the weather is like here. Because I know when I first got the job, you guys sent that pack, like a welcome starter pack. The weather is changeable. You can have all seasons in one day, And you kind of think, oh yeah, hard to imagine until you get here, and then you're like, right, okay, now I understand this. One day it's like lovely, sunny, sunshine, warm. Next day it's absolutely pouring down with rain.
I did a piece on weather in 2013, I think it was, and I was sitting there. It's actually Caroline was in the office, and I did a piece to camera outside saying, oh, this is how it is. And it was beautiful sunshine. I was in a shirt. And then we went back inside, and she said, when are you going to do the other piece? I said, when it snows. And she said, well, when's that going to be? I went, not long. If you look out that window, you can see the brown clouds. That's snow coming. Yeah. And sure enough, within a few minutes, it chucked down the snow. And I went right outside, filmed this bit of me saying, seriously, you don't appreciate it until you're down here. Anyway, we're going off the point, which is Sao Paolo. Tell us about your trip. 'Cause it sounds like you were pretty rushed off your feet.
It was really good actually, but it was very non-stop. So we kind of, by the time we arrived at the airport, we were up really early, arrived at the airport quite late because we had one night in Santiago before we went on to Sao Paolo. So we were up early that morning of the Sao Paolo flight, got in, had a chance to quickly change your clothes, and then we were off out again. But it was interesting because not only did you have Falkland Islands government members of the Legislative Assembly, you also had tourism operators who were selling the Falklands and promoting it as an extra holiday destination to Brazilian tourists. And so we were kind of flitting between both of their timetables. So we went to, obviously, the reception. There was a big reception that was held where they'd invited some local Brazilian tour operators and stuff, and they had all the Falkland Islands tourism board bits and goodie bags out to try and promote that. So that was really good. And we spoke to some of the MLAs there and chief executive there as well. And then we had 2 days where we were following the local tourism operators around, having a look at some of the meetings that they were having. So one of the meetings they had was with a family-run eco-tourism travel agent.
What's ecotourism?
I know, it's trying to keep your carbon footprint down, I think, so it's all like hiking and things like that. And really cool stuff. And stuff that would tie in quite nicely to the Falklands. I can imagine their clients would want to come here because it was all outdoorsy, things like that. So we went there, which was nice. And it was funny because we rocked up at this address in the cab, and as you kind of came out, we looked around, no sign on the building, no nothing, and we thought, oh, is this someone's house? Do you know, it just didn't look like the company. Rang the doorbell. Turned out that the offices were out the back, but it was really nice. And they were sitting and telling us about their company, and we had the likes of Adrian Lowe from the Murrell Farm kind of selling his side of things and explaining what kind of tours they offer and things. So I think they're hoping to keep that relationship going. It's early days, as you probably know, but...
So it's coming in next week, isn't it? That's it now. It's started, hasn't it? So
yeah, but it was really good. And then we managed to squeeze in a little half day of having a look around the museum as well, which was nice. World's biggest museum in Latin America.
Yeah, you were saying you had some Dali in there. So tune it. So this week on FITV, that's number 456. You've got Thomas and Hannah at the reception in Sao Paulo, and next week you'll have the little touristy, section.
And also, I think it's quite a good destination for people in the Falklands if they want to go on holiday there or spend a couple of days having an explore. Great place for connectivity if you want to go on elsewhere. You can get loads of different flights from that airport. So I don't think it's a bad thing at all. It's great.
Excellent. This week's programme also, week number 456, we had a little power cut flicker, didn't we? See that at the very end of the programme when we all went, oh.
And our little faces.
Just as we were talking about, just introducing the Sao Paolo piece, and then the power sort of like...
Flick the lights out.
Yeah.
Because we've had it before, haven't we, where we've had power cuts and we think, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? Not connect it to the internet.
Oh, it's awful.
Nightmare.
Especially if you haven't saved anything on your computer. Yeah. And then everyone, it's so funny because we're in Stanley Services office block, and if there is a power cut, everyone goes into the corridor and looks at each other.
It's an excuse to have a chin wag, isn't it? Have a little bit of a break, have a cup of coffee.
Anyway, while you were away, we did the triathlon. And when I say we, Tom, little Tom,
it was just the two of you, wasn't it?
Just the two of us.
Fort. How did it go?
Tom, who does our graphics, it was me and him. Well, actually, Steve helped out as well. We did it all Mojo, so it's all on phones. Yeah, everything's on phones. It was all right.
Yeah.
It was all right from our point of view.
What was the weather like? Was it okay?
It was not too bad. It was not too bad. There was some wind. I mean, the cycling is just brutal when they go back where they have to cycle. But in the piece, Mark Nightingale says that in the UK, triathlons, the cycling part is 40 kilometres, and it's only 20 kilometres here.
God.
So,
but then we've got the wind, haven't we, to have to deal with cycling into the wind. Can't be much fun.
The swimming part, for those of you who have just tuned in, is not in the harbour. Although that would be hilarious. It's not in the harbour, it's actually in the swimming pool. So what they do is they stagger the start, so you go in groups, and I think they've got 5 lanes at the swimming pool. Yeah. So they do it in groups of 5, and off they go. So we were there for 3 hours filming all that.
It's quite good, the triathlon, though, because you don't have to just go in on your own and take it all on your own. You can go as a relay team as well, which is good, so you can have one person doing each section. And
from a filming point of view, unlike the marathon, which we will have to do, the half marathon in February and the marathon in March, for those, one of us has got to be on the leader, has got to literally follow the leader around and make sure that we are back at the finish line for the leader to cross it, and that's the crucial part. Whereas the triathlon, of course, you have no idea who's winning until the evening when they give out the results. Yeah. So for us, it's a little bit more relaxed as a sporting event.
Well, the marathon's always quite difficult, isn't it? Because we've got to be on the move. You don't want to miss out people in the middle, because you don't just want to follow the leader.
No.
It's a bit like cycling, I imagine. You know, these people who do film the Tour de France, they've got the peloton, then as soon as people break off, it's difficult to film.
It is.
We need to get one of those helicopters, or get the drone up or something.
Well, we can do this year, can't we? We didn't put the drone up last year, but we could do it this year.
Yeah.
I've got false eyelashes down. I think that was just to say that I think I might try some false eyelashes. Because I don't think you can see my eyes very well.
It's the tired Thursday
my daughter will be chuffed to bits, and she's going to show me how to... Because apparently it's not just a case of taking them out of the packet and bunging them on your eyes. You have to cut them to fit and all sorts.
That sounds like a right faff.
Tune in later.
Paula will be up at 4 a.m. on a Thursday doing her eyelashes before the show.
Anyway, art exhibition.
Yes, tell us. This sounded really interesting. I'm a little bit gutted. I miss it. I don't know when
it finishes tonight at 7 o'clock. Yeah.
A to Z of the Falklands.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Honest,
so what was the concept behind it?
So it's Julie Halliday, who I think everything she touches is just so professional and so beautiful. She organised it 5 years ago. She did a thing called Falklands Framed, where she got some local artists and basically gave them all the same frame that was about 12 inches by 12 inches, and just went, do something with it. And of course, you've got people who felt, you've got people who do silk painting, you've got people who do ceramics, you've got people who do fabric, you've got people who paint watercolours, paint acrylics, paint oils, loads. And it was just the most amazing exhibition where somebody's just been given this plain frame, decoupage frame kind of thing, and they've just ran with it, and it was fantastic. And at the same time, this is the clever part, she gave some to the GCSE art students who then did theirs as well. This time round is Falklands A to Z, so she put a call out and said, whoever's interested, please come and meet me. And they all went, I think it's back in March, and she had 48, so she drew letters of the alphabet for everybody. And you got your letter, and off you went. And it had to be something Falklands related.
Because I initially, when I heard the idea, I thought it was, you have to make that letter in a do you know what I mean? Like A, but with a Falklands theme, so like an A that's in the sea or something, do you know?
No.
But so no, it's a good idea.
It is fabulous. So you've got, like, for instance, my friend Jana got V, and she does needle felting, and so she's needle felted this vulture, and it absolutely beautiful. Wendy had W, and she's done a sort of fabric-y. Well, that just doesn't even come close to describing what she'd done, because it's fantastic. It uses applique, it uses patchwork, it uses free machine embroidery on this frame, and she's done wrecks. So this is wreck of a ship.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you've got somebody who had B and has done a black-browed albatross.
Yeah.
It is just, it's fabulous. And you go in there, and because I know quite a few of the people who are exhibiting, and you look and you think, oh, I thought you only did, one kind of media, and you're doing this as well. I was blown away by it. And the way she put it up as well, it wasn't just slapped on some boards or whatever. She'd really put a lot of thought in how she wanted the exhibition to look and where you worked around it, and also it was just so clever.
I always find it quite amazing how for a very small community, how many people are really creatively talented.
Yeah.
For such a small community. I don't know, I find it mad, and it sounds awful, but you'd almost expect we'll have a couple of good artists. The standard is so high.
Yeah. Well, there's one lady there who's exhibiting,
shocking.
and she does crochet, and she does run crochet courses here in the Falklands, and I know she runs sticky things for craft groups for children, and she'd made this ship, the Urani ship, out of wire, and it was beautiful. Gosh. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, this will go out before it's finished, but whenever Julie Halliday says, I'm doing this, go and see it.
Go and see it, yeah.
It's just so worth it.
I need to spend more time getting creative. I feel it puts me to shame. When you kind of look at what other people are doing, you think, oh God, I need to make more of it. But speaking of making an effort, I'm having a little look on your kitchen table, Mrs. Phones. Is that Paula's Pebbles?
That's Paula's Pebbles going on.
What's that you're doing?
Well, there's this Facebook page called Falklands Rocks. I think it was somebody from MPA who started it. And I think it's something that's happening in the UK as well. I think they do it in the UK, don't they?
Yeah.
Where people paint rocks and then varnish them and then put them out for people to find.
Yeah.
And on the back, you just take a photograph of it and, put it on Facebook to say you found it. And it's almost like geocaching, I guess, because you can either keep it or take it somewhere else and hide it somewhere else.
Your ones, Pebbles, are looking very festively.
They're very festive Pebbles.
Themed.
I'm not saying any more than that. They're very festive. But you're saying about getting into craft. This is something you can do. Dead easy. You just pick a stone, pick a pebble, wash it.
You must be quite patient. You have a little patience.
Not really. I mean,
we'll have to take some pictures for the pod. We'll put it up so the listener can have a look.
Mine are very cartoony, and I just, you go on Pinterest and get some ideas and just do it.
Very cool.
That's what you come up with. But yes, something easy and simple to do.
Yeah.
Like I said to you earlier, if you're not particularly crafty but you want to do something, you can get somebody to draw a picture on it, and then you
just fill in the gap. Yeah. It's very creative. Very good idea.
Yes. So anyway, moving down our list of things, it says KTBT Brazil. So listeners may remember. Hope you remember, we had an employee at FITV called KTBT. Now, Thomas and Hannah went to Sao Paolo, as you heard, and at the reception, Thomas has filmed something, and I think it's a glass of wine, and somebody comes over and picks up the wine or comes past the wine, and they're out of focus, and if you looked quickly, I would have said it was Katie.
Does it? Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't looked at that. I must have looked. I know what shot you're talking about.
Yeah. Look at it really quickly.
Because I remember filming the glass, and then I'll have to have a look and see who that was.
Have a look at that. It's definitely
Easter egg. It's an Easter egg.
It could be. Now,
this is funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look at our list.
So we're at my house, and we have a list at FITV in the office of things to talk about on the podcast. I forgot to take a photograph of it or write it down, so we got here and we had to ring back and get somebody to look through the window.
That's angled at a very difficult angle to actually see the whiteboard with the list.
And they have finally said it's images, but it actually says flopping images.
What on earth is a flopping image?
Well, you can do it on... so when you do interviews, you tend to put your interviewee on one side of the frame. So if you're interviewing 3 or 4 people, you would put them on opposite sides of the frame. So you would have somebody interviewed and they'd be on the right-hand side of frame, and then the next shot, the next interview would be on the left-hand side of frame. So Thomas has put together the piece today, and you'll see Chief Executive of the Falkland Islands, Barry Rowlands, on the left-hand side of frame, and it looks fine. But if you have a close look at his tie, you'll see that the Falkland Islands logo is actually the wrong way round, because Thomas has had to flop the whole image, because the next person he interviews is Roger Spink, I think.
Because of the order that he put it in, he's had to,
And Roger Spink, unfortunately, has got a name badge on that you can clearly see his name. So if you flop that image, you'd see that it was the wrong way round. So he's had to flop the image of Barry Rowlands instead. It's a clever little thing to do.
Yeah.
But if you know somebody quite well, we did it. I interviewed the navigator from HMS Glamorgan years and years ago. And because it was one of the first interviews I ever did, and I had two cameras, and I crossed the line, so it didn't look right when you put the two images together, and I had to flop his close image. And then when you look at it, you think, that's not quite the same as the other image.
It's the writing as well. You can always tell whenever there's writing in the background or something like that.
You've got to be careful if you flop the image.
You've got to be quite careful. But I think at that point we weren't sure what order we were going to do the interviews in, so we actually did have two on the right, one on the left.
Yeah.
But because of the order that Thomas obviously chose to put what they were saying, the interviews in the piece, he had to flop
one.
Flop
it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. 9 lessons and carols.
Oh, yes. What? This is something that was in the What Song Guide this week when I was putting it together, and I thought, what on earth is the 9 lessons and carols? I know what carols are, obviously.
So, it's a traditional service that you'll find in most C of E churches around Christmas, like usually the week before Christmas. 9 lessons and carols. Listen, it's 9 lessons from the whole of the Bible, with the last one basically being a summing up of everything that's happened before, interspersed with carols. But the carols can change, and I was having a little mini rant as a person who was in a choir. I was having a mini rant in the office about this. They always start off with "Once in Royal David City." Usually the first verse is solo, somebody in the choir. Second verse is usually choir only, and the third one is when you let the congregation join in. At which point the choir normally processes up the aisle up to the choir stalls. There's usually "O Come All Ye Faithful" somewhere in the middle. But they always end on "Hark the Herald Angels Sing," which is absolutely beautiful. Music by Mendelssohn. The descant, for us sopranos, the descant is really high. You've got to hold a top A for quite some time, and I think it might end on a G or an A.
At the end of the whole
At the end of the whole
when
thing.
You've sung your heart out and then you've lost your voice.
So as a descant, you've got to sit there and not give it too much, you know, on the rest of the songs. So, in fact, when I was at school a long time ago, our music master wouldn't let us sing the descant of Hark the Herald, because it was so atrocious at the end of a carol service. Because none of us could hit the A, and tried desperately, but none of us could hit the A because we just wrecked our voices throughout the whole of the thing.
See, I thought, is the 9 lessons and carols similar to a Chris Dingle service where, because I remember as a child, you go to church and you'd be given the orange with the cocktail sticks in it and the Haribos and Dolly mixtures and a candle in it.
Yes.
And that was like the highlight of the service for me.
So at school you go to church and they basically give you a weapon. Yeah. Really, I mean, you know. I remember.
Do they do that at the 9 lessons and carols?
No. I remember going to when I was in the UK doing a Chris Dingle service, giving these 4-year-olds live candles to hold. They sat behind each other with their coats on. It was dreadful. No, they don't do that. You just sit there. But as I said in the office, you know, so they'll have the lesson about the shepherds arriving, and then they'll sing While Shepherds Watch, which has got like 60 million verses. And, you know, there is, I said this in the office, there is an alternative which the choir will sing, but it's one that the congregation doesn't normally sing because it's quite difficult and it's got a lot of modulation in it. And I was singing it once in our old parish in a choir for during communion, and we would have a piano accompaniment, and we couldn't hear the piano, and we'd gone off key. So the piano was merrily tinkling away in one key. We'd modulated into a completely other key. The vicar, who was quite musical, had picked up on this and came down from the communion, after he'd given all communion, came down to the choir and shushed us. and stopped us singing. So we didn't even come to the end of it. We were just like shushed, and we sort of all just like petered out. it was
Phased you out into
awful.
the background.
So embarrassing.
Oh.
Anyway, highlight of your week,
yes,
Hannah.
this is the highlight of my week. New mirror tiles. I know, it sounds really odd. I'll explain it to the listener. What we have at the moment, or what we did have, was a door to our office, and on the back of that door is a mirror. This is the door to the studio, bearing in mind, and there's a slight little window in this door. We shut the door before we do the news, and we put our makeup on in this mirror. But the person who is on the other side of the door can normally not see us, because we're so close to that mirror, trying to put our mascara on or whatever, that they'll open the door and nearly get hit in the face every time you try to do it. It's a bit scary putting your makeup on.
You have to sort of stick your foot out to stop the door.
Slamming in your face while you're putting your mascara on. So Paula and I, we went on a mission, didn't we, to try and find some mirror tiles. God, here, where and everywhere we went, and it turned out the place opposite our office
Pro Install had them.
Was the best place to get them.
And they had a variety of mirror tiles as well.
So we've got a couple of them up, haven't we, in the office? So we've got a kind of half-length mirror, which is quite good. Yeah.
So you see what we're doing.
2/3 length.
Yeah.
So now we can actually look decent on the news.
Right, so we're coming up to the end of the podcast now. I need to get my pastry out and roll it out. I think that's about it, really, isn't it, for this week?
Yeah, I think that probably is.
So next week we're going to plan to do the podcast on Wednesday, because it's going to be Tom's last podcast with us. Yeah. So he's gonna join us next Wednesday on that. He didn't join us today because he went to court this morning, and it went on a little bit longer than we thought it was. Also next week you're going to be looking at the attorney. Well, you're going to visit the Attorney General, aren't you?
Yes, about public protest.
Yes,
which should be quite.
Which is a very interesting. If you're looking, read along with us, listener. Is the AG has put out these guidance notes,
isn't it? Yeah.
Public protests. So we're going to be grilling him about those.
That would be quite
finding
interesting.
out more about it.
I don't know. Have there ever been many public protests in the Falklands?
Yeah, apparently there was actually. I think it was in the 60s. They gathered on Arch Green.
Outside the cathedral. Yeah, there's a photograph of it. Yeah, no, I did know that. But no, when it's funny, quickly backtracking, when not Kyle, Thomas and I were in Brazil, and there was a protest going on in the street.
Oh, peaceful protest?
Yeah, peaceful protest to do with the current government. Apparently it was nationalists who weren't too happy with the president at the moment, and something was kicking off, but they were actually, they all stood up and everyone was singing the national anthem, and it was actually really cool to go and walk down the street and see them all in their Brazilian colours and waving banners around. But when you were saying something about, for it to be a public protest, it's got to be 12 or more
12 or more people. Yeah, we sorry, we were being a bit facetious in the office and likening it to a coven. Yeah, you need 12 or more people for it to be classed as a riot. Yeah. And what I thought was interesting, apparently it's a very legal term, is reasonable firmness, I think. The sort of leader with reasonable firmness or something.
How on earth do you define what reasonable firmness is?
I don't know. We will find out on Monday when he speaks to the Attorney General.
So make sure to watch the show next week. Yeah,
so if you watch along this week, week number 456, and then tune in next week and see what we've done. See you next week.
See ya.
Bye.